So I'm using this. Okay, let's start, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم نور قلوبنا واشرح صدورنا بنور القرآن والإيمان والإسلام اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأتباعه وسلم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we will continue with our study of the 25th word. And please let me know if the screen share is not as it's supposed to be. So I'm using the option to share a portion of my screen, which is I'm using for the first time. So if I'm doing something wrong, please let me know. Sorry. Otherwise, we can continue, inshallah.
It looks good.
Okay. So we've been studying the 25th word for a while, which is about the miraculousness of Quran, and we studied its miraculousness from different perspective. And as we started the second ray, just to give you a bigger picture, we are studying the 25th word, the first light, the second ray, and the first flash. Okay, 25th word, first light, second ray, and the first flash. And the second ray is about the comprehensiveness of Quran. And this is part of its miraculousness, because this is one verse or even one word may mean multiple things, different things. And it's not just multiple things, it speaks to everybody. It speaks to every mind, regardless of the background, education, the culture, context that this mind is in. So it speaks to everyone. It speaks to every condition. It speaks to every time periods. It speaks to every culture. It speaks to every education level. And this is like impossible in practice for the human communication, right? When I say something which is at best is tailored to my audience, right? Abdurrahman and Shanur will understand it properly, but probably someone in my family, for instance, let's say, who are not following our discussions, wouldn't understand. Or whatever I say would make sense for Aziz, but probably it wouldn't make sense for 15 years old, at best. And in practice, whatever I say wouldn't even make sense to Suhail, who is a regular, the attendee of our discussions. But when it comes to Quran, all these verses of all these word choices, all these, the topics, the way they are studied, explained, and so on and so forth, all these different aspects would make sense to everyone. Everyone would benefit from it based on his or her own background, education, or expectations, or needs, or desires. This is a miracle in its almost dictionary definition, right? This is a pure miracle. And so far we studied, I guess, 2 verses as an example of this comprehensiveness. The one was about the mountains being or used or employed as pegs. And the other one, the second one, was about how heaven and earth were disjoined at the beginning and then, together at the beginning and then separated. And today, inshallah, we will study a third example, which is a verse from Surah Yasin, which is the 36th surah. And we will study a part of the ayah number 38, which in English somehow translated as Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and the sun runs its course to a place appointed. So before reading the text, let's read together the verses. Okay, and just to give you a background, I will start, inshallah, from the 30th, not 38 directly, 30th verse, the ayah. Yeah. So the Surah Yasin is up to this point, like up to verse 30, is at least mainly, there are of course different dimensions to it, but most of the ayahs talking about the prophets, the messengership, and the message they bring, and some evidences of the existence of the creator, existence of the creator who talks to his creation, sends messengers. And then a big portion of surah is also about the resurrection, the afterlife. And before the ayah 30, there are a few ayahs talking about how people ridicule or even kill messengers, how they deny them, and so on. And the ayah 30 starts as Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, how regretful for the servants. There did not come to them any messenger except that they used to ridicule him. So whomever were sent as a messenger, or whatever in its broader context or sense, whatever sent as a messenger to people, we people ridicule them, do not believe them, and even not denying them but ridiculing them, meaning it's not only that we don't believe them, we also prevent others to believe in them. Have they not considered how many generations we destroyed before them, that they to them will not return? And then talking about the order that things are being created as we experience, and part of this order, things come and then pass away, right? Everything dies, including the generations. We experience a certain culture. After a period, we see that this culture fades away. Also, when it comes to myself, I see that everything I know about myself goes away, and I become a new person, and it happens almost constantly. And indeed, all of them will yet be brought present before us. And the sign for them is that earth, right? The sign, you can take it as sign of the creator, unity of the creator, oneness of the creator, but also a sign for messengership, a sign that there must be a creator who speaks to its creation, his creation, and a creator that would send a message and a messenger to his servants. And the sign for them is the dead earth. We have brought it to life and brought forth from it grain, and from it they eat. So we have these needs, we have these desires, and this desire, this sustenance of these desires, these needs is given to us. And it's given to us from that earth. And we place therein gardens of palm trees and grapevines, and cause to burst forth therefrom some springs. I love these translations, like the words they use. Probably nobody uses such words anymore. Therein, the burst forth therefrom, but anyway, I guess it gives this impression of seriousness. That they may eat of his fruit, and their hands have not produced it, so will they not be grateful. This is a question, like, so will they not be grateful? Exalted is he who created all pears from what the earth grows, and from themselves, and from that which they do not know. And the sign for them is the night. We remove from it so they are in darkness. And the sun runs toward its stopping point. This is the portion that we will study, inshallah. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها. And the sun runs toward its stopping point. That is the determination of the exalted in might, the knowing. ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. So exalted in might is Aziz, Al-Aziz, and the knowing is Al-Alim. And the moon, we have determined for it phases, until it returns like the old date stock. We studied this verse, this ayah, I guess, a few weeks ago. Let's say many weeks ago, as a part of 25th word, if I'm not mistaken. And let's finish with the ayah 40. It is not allowable for the sun to reach the moon, nor does the night overtake the day, but each in an orbit is swimming. So again, ayah 38, and the sun runs toward its stopping point, that is the determination of the Al-Aziz Al-Nabi Al-Alim. Abdurrahman, if you are available, do you mind reading the Arabic? Like, I already read it, but you know, it's my Arabic is childish. So let's hear from an expert, inshallah.
You want me to, Salam alaikum, Birkan, you want me to read the ayah in Arabic? Is that
Oh, yes, yes.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khairan. Okay, now let's go back to text. But before that, would you like to make any comments about the ayahs that we read? Any impression that you had? Why it's talking about the sun, which runs towards its stopping point? So all these are listed as evidences, as signs. You know, the who creates for whom. For who creates the, sorry, I messed up. These are all listed as signs for the creator and also messengership. And now it's talking about the sun running towards its stopping point. So any first impressions about these ayahs before we go to text? Yusuf, please go ahead.
So the Surah Yasin, as you said, started with like in the first maybe 12 verses, it was making many general statements about belief, messengerhood, how people believe and not. Then comes the lengthy metaphor in which people were denying the messengers, and they were challenging the messengers, actually saying that because the messenger is coming up with the message of responsibility and the purpose of existence, and definitely human experience, human existence is apparently going to come to an end. So people challenge the messenger, saying that, so what? What's going to happen? So this is why the main theme for the messengerhood is actually, as it points to, is resurrection. So this is why this verse and prior verses is about resurrection. It's because this was the reason of challenge. Resurrection was being considered something to be very unlikely, or it's not something that is that one can confirm. It's a very shady topic or something along these lines. So Quran starts giving evidences from human experience, because we generally say, well, resurrection, nobody came back. Everybody, whoever dies goes away, and nobody came back. So what do you mean that there's going to be a life after this one? And the Creator is as if bringing evidences to say that its maker is capable of doing it. He keeps repeating, doing it again and again in front of your eyes. What makes you think that he will not do it again? So this is, I guess, where those verses are fitting into the picture. Because if I feel like, let's say, Brother Birkan is telling me that he is going to give me $1 million, I have every right to be skeptical about it, because he doesn't even given me 1 penny. Well, maybe not that much, but more than $100. I hope he gets the message from that. But So, but if he has given me $1 million before repetitive times, then he says, I'm going to give it to you again, I would say, yeah, I mean, this is something that he keeps doing. So I wouldn't be reluctant to believe in that. So I guess this is somewhat what I understand is the context of these verses. So the sun, day and night, sun and moon. So this cycle that keeps happening again right in front of my eyes is being used in here as if to convince me that your life and your death is your day and night. So, and you see that day and night is being altered every day. So is your maker is capable of doing that. What makes you think that he will not be able to make it in the night of your life?
Jazakallah khairan. Well said. Like all these ayahs definitely gives an impression of being about the resurrection. And they are actually maybe word choice. The impression was not good. They are about the resurrection. They talk about, the things are being created and then destroyed and they're created again, and everything serving a purpose. And this ayah specifically also talks about a purpose, right? A goal, a sun running towards a stopping point, running toward a determined place. It's not, just randomly going somewhere. It's going somewhere which is determined. And then ayah continues saying that, yes, that is the determination. That is the determination. And it's not the determination of blind forces of nature. It is the determination of the Al-Aziz, the exalted in might, the Almighty One, and the knowing One. So it has a purpose. It's a determined purpose, and this purpose, this goal, is determined by the One who controls everything, who knows everything, is above anything. So your life as well has its course, runs towards a point which is determined by someone who knows, who sees everything. So you are not left alone when you think about your death, when you think about the grave, which seems to be almost a random vanishing point. Right? You're living your life, and out of sudden, with no explanation, you just go away and die. Everybody dies way before the expected time, right? When we hear about the people who recently die, we always hear that the people who's left behind saying that he or she died so young. It was so unexpected. There were a lot of things that she or he wanted to do before the death. So it was so unexpected. But this ayah says, no, it was expected. It was it was supposed to be at this very moment, because she was running toward her course, stopping point, and there was a purpose in it. So you have every right to expect that it was for a reason. It's not just vanishing. It is part of a bigger picture. Any other comments? Otherwise, I can go back to the text. Oh, Aziz, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. So I'm just kind of repeating, but I want to say that one thing I can think about is stillness. And I know many people use it now, even outside of faith circle, but I just feel tired. Like I don't know how to express it. Like this life is really tiring. Like there is so much unnecessary movement, unnecessary thinking, unnecessary pain. I don't know. This is how I feel. It just and not being not being still. And I wonder, is that the end? Is if we work toward the end, on the right path, is where we will really find that stillness. And it's really needed. I don't know, for me, I really need to find that mustaqar. Let me read the translation for a second. I really need to find that stopping point, because other moving points are very exhausting. I'm just tired, really tired. Like I don't want to be very in a very dark mode on a very dark mode, but it's true. I really am tired. So I hope when the stopping point arrives, I find that stillness. So I just wanted to share that. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah khairan. So, yeah, it's an interesting point of view. I'm just trying to make sense of it in my own mind within the framework of this Quranic teaching. And because when you say calmness or peace, finding peace at the stopping point, so it reminds me there's the other ideologies as well, which talks about, the living the world, leaving everything behind, just reaching stillness, calmness. And on the other hand, at least to me, it sounds like when I read Quran, when I study Quran, it seems like Quran is teaching finding calmness or stillness. I don't know, like the definition, what we mean with these words will change from one person to another, of course. But finding this stillness, calmness within the creation, not by leaving the creation behind, but within the creation. Facing the reality, facing the creation, finding out the true reality, and having a sense of peace with it, rather than just reaching to emptiness and finding the stillness there. So same way, the death or any stopping point, any goal, any purpose that we serve, at least to me, shouldn't be emptiness. Like I don't want to reach emptiness to find stillness. I want to reach a point where, I see that the things, it makes a perfect sense. Every experience I have, everything that I interact with takes me to their creator, my creator, rather than to again, emptiness. So I have, this is a personal understanding, but I have this, the connection in my mind that whenever I hear stillness or calmness, especially nowadays, like through all these famous the ideologies, the trendy trendy approaches to mental health, let's say, the stillness somehow equates with emptiness, that you free your mind and reach stillness. But to me, I guess Quran tells us just the opposite. Like fill your mind with the right thing. But anyway, so if there are any comments, any questions, disagreements, I can wait a few more seconds. Otherwise, we can continue with the text, inshallah. Okay, let's continue with the text.
I just want to jump on for 1 second.
Sure,
yeah, I think I think this is important what you said about finding peace with action. Like instead of what I'm saying, like stillness, like reaching the end and just like taking a nap and finding a peace in that nap. Instead of that, maybe Quran or probably what's happening, Quran is teaching us how to find the peace while we are awake. So I really like that. So Jazakallah khair. Assalamu
Jazakallah khairan. Like, yeah, that's a great analogy, actually, like having a nap and being awake. Yeah. And I agree, like that this being tired of this life is there, I think, for everyone, because the way the life is introduced to us, the way we experience life or see the life is so tiresome, as if everything running against us, everything, you know, that pushes us, and we are somehow squashed and squeezed under their pressure, the way. That's the way we'll experience life, that for sure. And Quran comes and tells us that, you know, there's a solution for that. I'm here for guidance. And the solution is within this tiresome experience itself, it says. I guess that's the one critical point which separates Quran from any other alternatives. Others would say, you know, I will tell you, I will give you a way to escape from your experiences. But Quran will give us cure within these experiences. Anyway, okay, let's start, inshallah, ya Allah. And another example, and the sun runs its course to a place appointed. The lamb, translate here as to, expresses also the meaning of in. So the lamb that the text refers is, I guess, so the lamb at the very beginning, like beginning of the mustaqarin, right? Am I wrong? This
yeah,
lamb,
you're right. Yeah, that's
this lamb
correct.
is mentioned. So towards or to, or also lamb may mean in, as author states. لمستقرين, and express also the meaning of in. Thus, ordinary believers, so it's talking about me and Aziz, two of us, Thus, ordinary believers see it as meaning to and understand that the sun, which is a mobile lamp, providing light and heat for them, will certainly conclude its journeying and reach its place of rest, then take on a form which will no longer be beneficial. Right? This is the way most of us think of it. And we even have some apocalyptic, the stories, narrations from so-called intellectuals or scientists or magicians, like tech giants. For some reason nowadays, the tech giants are the ones talks about everything, including our health, what we should eat, what we should wear, how we should live. It's interesting times. Anyway, which is a mobile lamp providing light and heat for them, will certainly conclude its journeying and reach its place of rest, then take a form which will no longer be beneficial. And even according to those narrations, it probably will destroy our planet. And pondering over the great bounties of the all-glorious Creator has attached to the sun, they declare, "Glory be to God, all praise and thanks be to God." Author says this the understanding of ordinary believers, and I, to be honest, find it fascinating that seeing sun as a mobile lamp that provide us light and heat. Even these understanding is most of the times is so far from our reality, right? It's just an object there. But once you see it as something with a purpose which is related to your life, that it provides light and heat for you, specifically for Aziz, right? He's walking on the street, chilly, let's say, weather, and then sun comes, touches his, the neck and cheek, starts warming his skin, and then he's smiling, and then he realizes that the light coming from sun helps him to find his way. Otherwise it would be so dark. He enjoys the brightness of a day, all the reflections from the windows around, which gives the funny shades on the street, and he's continues enjoying the scenery. And then he smiles and says, glory be to God, who put this giant ball of fire for my benefit. All praise and thanks be to God, he says. Such a sincere believer as is. Yes. And then it continues, a learned scholar would also show the lamb as meaning too, but he would think of it not only as a lamp, but also as a shadow weaving the tapestries of the sustainer on the loom of spring and summer. What does tapestry mean? I'm sorry, I didn't check it before.
It's like a long cloth that you can like draw pictures on, maybe tells a story, hang it in your house somewhere.
Okay.
Like an
So,
embroidery.
okay, so let me read this sentence again, and inshallah Atik and Abdurrahman can help me understand the sentence, even from the English point of view. But he would think of it not only as a lamp, but also a shadow weaving the tapestries of the sustainer on the loom of spring and summer, as an ink pot whose ink is light for the letters of the eternally besought one, written on the pages of night and day. Brother Atik and Abdurrahman, would you mind helping me to understand this sentence?
Sure. I think a modern analogy would be like a printer or a 3D printer or something where the sun is creating or being used to create or print images and pictures, and this life as like a movie or something like that. Is that more clear?
It's much more clearer. And Abdurrahman, would you like to add anything on top of that?
No, I think a printer example is nice. I mean, what I understood is basically the sun. It's, I don't know, the sun. I could maybe you can imagine it as like the needle, and it's moving around, weaving a cloth or tapestry, and it's what it's weaving together is like the names of the creator in some sense, the names of the sustainer, and the ink. Or this is written on the pages of night and day, so it's like written on creation. So like the sun is moving across the sky, and I guess it's moving, and like its ink is the letters of its creator, and then it's writing it across creation as it's moving. I mean, that's just the imagery I have.
Jazakallah khairan. That was very helpful as well. And it's interesting, like I just remember the way we explain how colors are formed. So as many of you would know, at least based on the current theory, is that the things, they don't have the color that we see just by themselves, right? The color, quote unquote, emerges out of the interaction between the light of sun and the objects. So the light, reaches to object, and part of it is what is the word for sucked, let's say. The part of the light, like certain wavelengths, are sucked by the object. They stay with the object, and some others are reflected by the object. And we see the part which is reflected by the object as its color. So in another way, the sunlight paints everything around us in a dynamic manner. So every single second, every single nanosecond, objects around us are painted by the light, sunlight. And we see these colors in real time, right? Otherwise, it's not like the objects have this static color and we see them. They are constantly painted by sunlight. And we see this ever-changing painting of the quote-unquote nature. Okay, the educated scholars think of like as understand this, and then text continues, and thinking of the order and regularity of the world, of which the apparent movement of the sun is a sign, and to which it points, he would exclaim before his wisdom, what wonders God has willed, and declare before old wise maker's art how great are his blessings. And he would bow in prostration. So first understanding was, the sun is benefiting us, but one day it will die. And another understanding, another layer of understanding is that it's the sun is the sign of the order in our life. Through sunlight, through the actions of the sun, we experience all these signs of the Creator being, painted, being embroidered over the pages of night and day. A geographer and philosophers would explain the lamb as meaning in like this: through the divine command and with a spring-like motion on its own axis. Through the divine command and with a spring-like motion in its own axis, the sun orders and propels the solar system. Exclaiming in wonder and amazement before the all-glorious Maker, who does create and sets in order this mighty clock. Okay, spring-like motion is related with the analogy of clock. Order this mighty clock, all mightiness is God's and all power. He would cast away philosophy and embrace the wisdom of the Quran. So that's interesting, right? She would start with the tools of philosophy, or what I understand from this philosophy, probably it's about abstract thinking, maybe making analogies between the things, and seeing sun as a, the clock, which somehow manages the solar system. It starts with these tools, the abstract thinking, making great analogies, going beyond, what is seen. And then he would cast away philosophy and embrace the wisdom of Quran. So what does it mean? Any comments are very welcome. I will wait a few seconds for your comments regarding this part specifically. He would cast away philosophy and embrace the wisdom of Quran. Atik, please.
Sounds like the wisdom of the Quran is something more like universal, more easily something accessible by all people. It's not just limited to, you have to approach it using this philosophy, geography, or any of these sort of things, but that all of these things, they can potentially be used to reach this divine message, right? That's attainable to anybody. So I think it's, as he says, like the abstract, right? The abstract thinking, it might have been used to reach this message, but it ultimately transcends that limitation. I would say because it like belongs to this physical realm, whereas the wisdom of the Quran relates to a higher order of being.
Oh, Jazakallah khairan. Any other comments regarding this part? The people are probably are very occupied with setting up their iftar table, I imagine. Our brother Yusuf probably is watching in mind the meat that his wife prepared for him, otherwise he would speak. Okay, let's continue then. So the way I understood this part, he would cast away philosophy and embrace the wisdom of Quran is that no matter what tools we use to understand the reality will speak to us and points us to the right direction. So everything in the creation will somehow, the scream that it is being created by the Almighty One, by the All-Knowing One. Even if we start with an understanding that that it is me who comes up with this understanding. I'm using my mind, I'm using my mental power to make sense of things. When I face with the elegance of the creation, when I face with the perfection of the creation, when I realize that the sun has this purpose which easily transcends its material being, its itself, and I have chance to choose to give away my earlier claims that it's me who comes up with this understanding. It's my mental power, that illuminates my day. Rather, I say the wisdom, like the wisdom of the Quran, which is sent to me, illuminates me. My creator, the creator of the sun, illuminates me. And brother Yusuf, thanks to his wife, who probably did take the meat away so that he can speak.
As you were also pointing to, so the philosophy looks at things for the sake of themselves. But in the verse, when it says لِمُسْتَقَرِّ لَهَا, it's not like لِمُسْتَقَرِّهَا. So it's not like the sun is going towards its course, but a course that is as if cast upon it. So just a second, I need to open the door for.
She is also hungry. Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, that's that path is ordained for sun. So it's not sun's orbit. It's an orbit that is given to sun, or the sun is put into that orbit. So starting to see it as such, then you will say, who put it in there? Why did he put it in there? What does that mean? So this would be the Quranic wisdom. But philosophical wisdom would be just describing the orbit as if just the orbit is in there, orbit happens by itself, or sun is in that orbit by itself, and doesn't look at this other aspect. So when this additional laha part, so sun is going on the orbit, but the orbit is external. It's not attached to the sun really, even in the wording. So it's externally put upon the sun. And in here, when the philosopher is listening to it in the meaning of fi, on, so he starts reading it with from the Quranic wisdom perspective. And what he describes in here is reading it as Quran would read it, as it points to its creator. So he throws away or casts away the philosophy, which would look at it for itself, but then enters the Quranic wisdom, which means it looks to its creator, its maker. And this is what the verse was already pointing to. It's speaking in a way that the orbit of sun is not belonging to sun, but it is put upon sun.
Jazakallah khairan. Okay, since we don't have much time, what I'm going to do, I will read the rest until the next example, and then we can discuss them together, inshallah. A precise scholar would consider this lam as both causal and adverbial. I'm not sure what this adverbial means. Like I also read the original Turkish, which is like in which also the word adverbial used, and I couldn't understand. So any help would be great. Lam as both causal and adverbial, and would explain it like this: since the all-wise maker has made apparent causes a veil to his works through a divine law of his called gravity, through a divine law of his called gravity, he has tied the planets to the sun like stones in a sling, and causes them to revolve with different but regular motions within the sphere of his wisdom. And he has made the sun spinning on its own axis, an apparent cause giving rise to the gravity. That is the meaning of to a place appointed is it is in motion in its own appointed place for the stability of the solar system. Okay, I see. So adverbial, I guess, means here something like within, somehow like the thing, maybe affected by. So it runs within a course, kind of, I guess. That is the meaning of to a place appointed, is it is in motion in its own appointed place. So all other understandings were like it runs towards a point, almost in a linear way, right? But here, let's talk about a continuous motion within appointed place, in its appointed place, for the stability of the solar system. For it is a divine rule, a dominical law, like motion apparently giving rise to heat, and heat to force, and force to gravity. Thus, on understanding this from a single letter of the Quran, the philosopher would declare all praise and thanks be to God. It is in the Quran that true wisdom is to be found. I consider philosophy to be worth virtually nothing. And the following idea would occur to a thinker of poetic bent from this lamb and the stability mentioned above. The sun is a luminous tree, and the planets are its mobile fruits. But contrary to the two trees, the sun shakes itself, so the fruits do not fall. If it didn't shake itself, they would fall and be scattered. Then he would think to himself, the sun is the ecstatic leader of a group reciting God's names. It resides in ecstasy in the center of the circle and causes others to reside. In another treatise, I describe this meaning as follows. Yes, the sun is a fruit-bearing tree. It shakes itself so that the planets fall not its fruits. If it rested in silence, the attraction would cease, and they would weep through space its ecstatics. Okay, let's stop here and hear your final comments. So before doing so, my understanding in a nutshell, the author just gave one example of miraculous comprehensiveness of Quran through a single letter, lam. And that it can be understood and it will be understood in different ways by different minds. And all these different understandings will lead a different kind of illuminations. Hence, even one letter speaking to many minds simultaneously, having all these meanings, different layers of meanings simultaneously. And of course, this is just a few examples, all kind of related to, let's say, a scientific or philosophical or ordinary understandings. He didn't even count many, spiritual understandings, many, the emotional understandings, and so on and so forth. So you can imagine how many more different understandings can be extracted from this verse, even from just one letter. Any closing remarks, any closing points before we end and Brother Yusuf starts eating his delicious meal, inshallah? Okay, let's conclude here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.